All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to ATP Live Monday. I mean, it's wonderful to be back again for a fresh episode of ATP Live. So, if you can see me, if you can hear me, kindly put it in the comment section. Let me know you can hear me and you can see me. Let me just increase the volume for Instagram. Okay, so drop it in the comment section. Welcome back from our breastfeeding week. All of last week was breastfeeding, breastfeeding, breastfeeding. I'm sure you are all overwhelmed and saturated with all the information about breastfeeding, and it's so important that we talk about breastfeeding. But today you are free to ask any questions on any issues as far as it relates to your children's health. Yeah, thank you, Nick. So you can hear me. Thank you for joining. Thank you for those who are watching now, and for those who are going to watch after the program is no longer live. You are all welcome. Welcome, welcome. So what I'm going to do now is to just make sure we share the video to all the various platform and that everybody can see and they can hear. So I also encourage you to please share it for your friends to join us. Anybody who have any health issues, especially as relates to children health. So you're welcome to ask your questions, and we're going to try and do that in the next 1 hour. And then, but remember that this program is brought to you by Ask the Pediatricians Foundation, and you can always ask your questions on our Facebook group. We have about 4 of them. Yeah, we have about 4 Facebook groups. We have the our Ask the Pediatricians, which is the main group where you can ask any questions that you have about children health issues. And then we have our ATP family, where you can ask questions about your own health issues. And of course, we have our ATP Still a Mom for those who need like an psychological, emotional support, especially if you have suffered the loss of a child. You can ask on our that Facebook group. And of course, we also have FCM Baby Care Ready group, and that is for those who are first time moms. So you can ask your questions in each of those groups, Mondays to Saturday, um, 24 hours every day. Yes, you can ask your questions there. All right, so I'm just sharing the videos now, making sure everybody can see it in all our groups. And so just give me like 2 minutes to do all the sharing, all the pinning, and all the needful. Then we can start. But feel free to start dropping your questions. You can drop your questions in the comment section. If you're watching on Instagram, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on Ask the Pediatricians, the main Facebook group, you can just drop your questions there. I'm going to say it directly. But if you are watching a shared video link on ATP Family or FCM Baby Care Ready or FTM Still a Mom group, you really need to, if you have questions, you have to click on the video and ask your question, because that's the only way I'll be able to see your question. But if you don't have a question, you are more than welcome to just watch on that platform. All right, so I think I'm almost done with all my sharing. Let me just make sure they're in the groups. And we can start, okay? All right, this is ATP Still a Mom. If you have any questions, any contact, all our details they're showing behind me. So feel free to grab any of our contact details. And you can always ask your questions or get answers to them. Okay, I can see. Okay, I have seen myself now. So welcome everyone. Hope you've had a beautiful day. I've had one myself. Welcome to Ask the Pediatricians Live Monday. All right, I just want to be sure. Just 1 more minute and I'll be ready to start fully. But please start dropping your questions. I'm just checking that the Videos are in our featured post section so everybody can see it. Okay, that's good. FTPBK. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Okay, I think I'm done now. Yeah, I think I'm done. Let me just check the last group. Okay, I think I'm done. So everybody can see me and everybody can hear me now in all our groups. Okay, I can't see much people dropping in comments on Facebook. So if you are there on Facebook, let me know you're there. So drop your questions and I will be answering them over the next 1 hour. I've not seen any question yet on Facebook. I've not seen any questions on Instagram either. All right. So if you don't have any question for me, that's also lovely. Okay. So whatever question you have about your children's health, feel free to drop them. Let's start dropping them and then we can answer them on time. And I don't like you dropping your question when I'm running away. Okay, I've got a question on our Facebook group. Thank you so much for joining us. So thank you so much for everyone watching. Uh, the first question I have here says, is there a cure for autism in children? Wow, that's a very big one. Very, very big one. April is our Autism Awareness Month, and I'm sure we've talked about autism. If I want to answer that question in as direct as I'm going to do, it is the answer is yes, no. It's no. We don't believe that autism is cured. Or it depends on how you look at it. We tend to believe that autism is a lifelong condition. So as long as anybody has autism, they have it and they have it for life. Okay, but I understand what you're saying. In other words, what how do we make a diagnosis of autism? Is by the clinical features, is by what's the behavior or the observation we made, what the person can or cannot do. However, people can learn to overcome some of the challenges they have. For example, maybe a child who is not talking, a child with speech therapy can start to talk. A child who is not very sociable can learn the social skills and become friends. So people with autism can actually acquire a lot of skills and be able to live independent life on their own. In other words, they can live independence and they can be. So we have professors who have autism. We have lots of politicians, successful people who have autism and they are living successfully with it. So if you're asking for a cure, there's no cure. But people with autism can learn to live and they can learn to acquire skills and live normal life, marry, have children, go to work, live independent life. So that is that. So it is not like a cure per se. In fact, some people don't, most people with autism don't look at it like a disease or a condition that has to be cured. They look at it as a difference. They call themselves neurodiverse. So there are lots of they are making a lot of advocacy to even change the way we look at it. So they just see themselves as being different, and not that there's anything wrong with them, not that they need to be cured of anything. So and they have their own strengths as well. But what parents really struggle with per se is not just the core autism per se, but there are other things that can come along with a child who has autism. For example, a child who has autism may also have speech delay. So the parent just want the child to talk. So that child will need speech therapy. Or some children have learning disability or intellectual disability in addition to the autism. So they may struggle with school and all that. So there are people with autism who are very super intelligent, and so they just that they are not maybe very sociable. They have their own peculiar way of doing their things and all that. So it depends on what kind of autism or whether there are other what we call comorbidities. So what I would normally encourage is that if you think your child has autism, please go for an assessment first. Because one of the things we do with assessment is not just to give a label and say this child has autism. We also look at what are the strengths of this child. Okay, so there are people who have very strong strengths. Some people with autism will look at a picture 1 second and they can draw it and they don't have to look at it again. The same thing, I've seen children who can sing song, just hear it once. That's the strength. Then we look at what are the areas where they need help. Is it behavior? Is it in social interaction? So what are these weak areas? And then that will guide how therapies are formulated, what support the child will need. So autism can be managed, but we don't talk about curing autism. So I hope that is helpful to whoever is asking that question. But if you want to clarify more, feel free to give more specific details and I will address them. All right, I have a question also on Instagram. Jodiac say, good evening, doctors. My baby is 5 weeks old and can only pass her stool when she's having a bath. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. So I suspect that maybe it's the stimulation of the water and all that that makes baby to pass through. But really, we are not worried about that. As long as baby is passing stool and the stools are not like hard, that is fine. Whether the baby passes when passing urine, when having a bath, I mean, at least the baby is giving you time, so you know when to prepare for cleaning, changing diaper, and all that. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the most important thing is that your baby is passing stool. So your baby passing stool every day. What's the color of the stool? Is it like for a baby's for your 5 week old baby? We expect your baby to be on exclusive breastfeeding, and they tend to pass what we call semi-formed stool. You look like some parts solid, some part liquid, like a goosey kind of soup. So that's the kind of stool that baby will pass at that age, and that's all we want. Sometimes when babies on exclusive breastfeeding may not pass stool for days, even up to 2 weeks. But when eventually they pass their stool, it will still be soft stool. It may be pasty, but it won't be hard, and that is still normal as well. So we are not worried. So they can go from passing their stool up to 12 times a day to not passing it at all for up to 2 weeks. So it's a wide variation, but we are not worried as long as the baby does not, it's not vomiting, the tummy is not distended, the baby is otherwise well, happy, we are happy too. So, Georgia, there's really no reason to worry. If you're a first time mom, we have resources for first time mom. We have our FTM baby care products. I will encourage you to read that. It will help you. And we also have the FAQ for first time mom, 500 of them. It will help you to know some of the things you shouldn't worry about and some of the things you have to worry about. If you want, you can send us a message on WhatsApp and we can tell you how to go about getting that. But for now, there's no reason to worry. I hope you're exclusively breastfeeding. That's the best way to feed your 5 weeks old. All right, no more question on Instagram. The next question I have on Facebook. Someone said, thank you for your support always. My 7-month-old baby can't sit for 20 minutes and one right hand doesn't have much grip like the left. Okay, so yeah, I'm worried now. So usually for children below the age of 1 year, in fact below the age of 2 years, there should be no difference in the way they use either hand. So we have what we call handedness. So as you get to like 18 months, they start using one more hand more than the other. So they develop what we call handedness. So if a child is going to be right-handed or if a child is going to be left-handed, we should only start knowing that after the age of 1 year. In fact, strictly speaking, 18 months. So if a child is already showing difference in the use of hands before the age of 1 year, it is a red flag for a pediatrician. It's a red flag for us because it tells us that, like you rightly have noticed, that it means one hand is weaker than the other one, or one is stronger than the other one. So we worry about that. And actually, we worry about possible what we call cerebral palsy, because that is what tends to cause that flag for us. So this 7 months old, a 7 month old baby should be able to sit with seats, but usually sitting with support is 5 to 6 months. Sitting without support is 7 to 8 months. So I'm not really so worried about the sitting per se, but I'm definitely worried about the handedness. The fact that one hand is weaker than the other is a very significant red flag. I really want you to take that baby to see one of my colleagues. You have to see a pediatrician, preferably a pediatric neurologist or a developmental pediatrician, so that we can do further assessment of that child and we can decide what is going on. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, because we may assess the baby now and there is no difference. Sometimes parents say this and then we see the baby and There's nothing. So I'm not trying to alarm you, but I really will appreciate if you take that baby to see a pediatrician to examine that child, and then they can tell you. If they worry, they will tell you what to do. If they are not worried, if they think there's no difference, then they will just reassure you. But it's important to that you pick up that sign and that we do further evaluation on that child. All right. So the next question is another Facebook user. Say my 8 month old baby is always running temperature. So when you use the word always, if a pediatrician, we want you to quantify it. We as scientists, we like to know actual dates and figures. So 8 month old always having fever. Do you mean the baby have fever every day for 8 months? So I always want to know. Sometimes people say always and they just mean twice in the child's lifetime of 8 months or 3 times. So it's important for you to tell us exactly what you mean. So the word always is not very specific enough. How many times has this child had fever? Does this child have fever every day, every week, every month? How many days a week? How many days a month? How many days a okay, maybe still not up to a year. So I really need to have that information, because the way we address a child who is having fever every day of their life is different from if the child has fever maybe in month one and then didn't have until month two and something like that. So it's very important. I know parents are always very you want us to feel how you're feeling, like you are really worried. But we have at the same time we have to be very objective, because the way we think or the way we analyze things will depend on that information. So I don't know, Facebook user, I can't see your name. You have to be very specific. Okay. But you say your baby also has cough and catarrh, which you have treated twice. When you say you've treated by yourself or treated by a doctor, did this child ever see a doctor? Those are the things I really need to know. All I can see is that your child is having recurrent fever, cough, and catarrh. So that child needs to see a pediatrician. A child should not be having recurrent fever. A child should not be having recurrent cough and catarrh. If the child is having it, we need to know why. So what I always tell parents, most of the time, we pediatricians, we are interested in why. We are not interested in the solution, in like giving you a drug immediately or all that, which is what most parents want us to do. What I want to know is, why is this child having cough and catarrh and having fever all the time? First, for the fever, get a thermometer. You need to measure it. We need to know. And luckily, we're living in the era of digital. So you can buy digital thermometers. You don't need to be a special, you don't have to be a nurse to use a thermometer. Buy digital thermometers, pop it in, it will it will make a beep or something when it's red, and you can write the figure out. And some of them even have memory. You can always press the memory and they will remember all the figures that you've taken. So you need to write down temperature. Fever for us is 37.5 and above. So if it is less than 37.5, the child is not having fever, no matter what you feel. And your hand is not reliable. Okay, that is why there's a thermometer, because your hand is not reliable. So get a digital thermometer. So, but in the meantime, what are these are just general advice I will give anybody who is having fever, cough, and catarrh. Make sure number one is your baby still breastfeeding. Breastfeeding protects your baby. Is your baby going to a creche? Your baby is going to creche daycare. They will always have recurring cough and catarrh. So you may want to consider whether you want to keep your baby at home. Are you exposing your baby to smoke? Firewood smoke, cigarette smoke, generator fumes? Are you spraying your room with insecticide and all that? Sometimes these are things that irritate the airway of the children. So you can often deal with all those things. Make sure your child is still on breast milk, even though your 7 months old should still be taking um other food by now, complementary food. But more importantly, make sure the baby is not exposed to all those smokes and fumes. Don't take baby to the kitchen. Don't fry oil with the baby there. Don't do all those things. No cigarette smoking in the house or by any of the parents. No firewood smoke. No fumes. No spraying. If you have to spray your house because of mosquito, take baby away from there for at least 2 hours until all the smell is completely gone before you bring it back. Okay. So those are the general things you can do first. And if your baby is going to crash, other children in the crash having cough and catarrh as well, you may want to keep your baby at home and see whether it makes any difference. So if you're doing all that and there's no difference, then you have to see my colleagues, any of the pediatrician, because there are conditions that will maybe to have recurrent cough and catarrh. So babies that have what we call obstruction to the airway, maybe with adenoids or with tonsils, they can have that. Babies that are likely going to develop asthma in future, they can have that. So there are other children who have heart problems, holes in their hearts, they always have recurrent cough and catarrh. So these are things for the pediatrician to figure out, but the most common ones are the ones you can deal with, which are already mentioned above. Okay, we'll take one more question from Facebook, then we'll go back to Instagram. Somebody say, good evening, doc. My baby was born preterm at 29 weeks. She's 14 weeks old now. So your baby was born 29 weeks, was born 11 weeks too early. So if your baby is 14 weeks now, your baby's corrected age is actually 3 weeks. So your baby is not yet up to even 1 month old. All right. I noticed that when she was 7 weeks, she wasn't adding weight because I was lactating well. The doctor prescribed Prenan. She took this, she was 2.7. She's now nano patrol, breast milk, semi-hard pool mixed with yellow pool, but pool was normal yellow. Well, but the color is deep green. So if you are on formula feeding, some formula can affect your baby's stool. So you can actually ask your pediatrician, since it's your pediatrician that prescribed the formula, your pediatrician will know whether this color change of the stool is something you should expect with the formula that your baby is taking. So that is what you should check. So you can also read about it in the leaflet, so you can also ask your pediatrician who's seeing your baby. I must remind you that for preterm babies, they must be under follow-up of a pediatrician for the first 2 years of their lives. Unfortunately, many mothers think once their preterm babies are fine, they are out of incubators, they've gone home, then it is all over. It is not. It is not over yet. Preterm babies are still high risk babies. We call them high risk babies, and they need to be followed up. We need to monitor them for at least 2 years. Some of us actually do it for 5 years. So we need to monitor them, monitor their growth, monitor the development, monitor everything about them, because there are lots of long-term complications that preterm babies can have. So preterm babies, you should never ever be far from your pediatrician. You must always be going for follow-up. Initially, we may be seeing you every day, so sometimes we see you every week. But after a while, we start seeing you every month, every other month. But you need to be going for follow-up. It is so important. And every issue, you must always raise it up. So for this question, I think some formula can make your baby's stool to be green. And it's because of some of the things they added, like iron and all that. We're not worried about it, okay? But you can always cross-check that information with the pediatrician, who is the primary pediatrician following up this baby. All right. Okay, let's go back to Instagram. I can see Instagram people are dropping their questions now. I'm scrolling to the beginning to make sure I didn't jump anybody's question, because some people are going to have my neck. That I don't always jump the question. Okay, the first question here is from me. Okay, good evening, dog. Good evening. My son is 3 years, but yet to vocalize words. Okay, so that is speech delay. But he communicates through actions and gestures. Okay, do I need to engage a speech therapist, or should I wait and see? Oh, let's start from wait and see. There's never any wait and see when it comes to child's development. That is a very wrong approach. You don't wait and see anything. This child should have a hearing test done. Have you done one? You do. If a child cannot talk, the first thing a pediatrician will want to check is the fact that the child can hear. We want to be sure this child can hear. Especially this your child that is using gestures. So is it hearing problem or is it a speech problem? So hearing test number one must be done. So I don't know where you are in Nigeria, but there are places where you can do hearing tests. Just Google it, okay? There are audiology centers even in Lagos and so many other parts of the country. You need to have a hearing test done. And I mean a formal hearing test. I'm not saying that the one we bang the door and, we do that in our clinics, but we actually need the audiologist to do a proper objective hearing test for your child. That is number one. So if the child can hear, then we know it's a speech and language problem. So we now need to know, is it just an isolated speech and language problem, or is it part of other problems like autism spectrum disorder, for example, global developmental delay, intellectual disability, and all that. So we need to know which one it is. So the first thing you're going to do, first, I mean, get your baby to have a hearing test done. If you have not done one, if you have done one, let me know quickly, and so that I can move on to the next question. The next thing is, if the child, whatever it is, the child in speech therapy, whether it's with hearing problem or whether it's without hearing problem, or whether it is autism or isolated speech delay, what we call developmental language disorder, or parts of intellectual disability, the child will always need speech therapy. But for those who have hearing problem, the approach is different. So for them, it is more about signing and all that, and lip reading. Then do we need to give hearing aids? See the shiny cochlear implants. Almost late for that, but it's never too late sometimes. So those are the things we'll be thinking about. But for a child who can hear, then the speech therapy can work with the child. But more importantly, you still need to see a developmental pediatrician, because we need to know why the child is not talking. A 3-year-old who is not talking, everybody's worried. That child needs to have a proper assessment, okay? Because that's not, never ever do wash and wait. It's wrong approach. Never. It is better even for children who are just late speakers, because we have what we call late bloomers. Even for those children, it's still better to do your assessment, get help, and then we reassure you that okay, the children were just late, and because those one they quickly catch up, and then everything just go away. Then we know that the child was just being late. It's better to do that than to do nothing, because early intervention is so crucial. The earlier, the better. The earlier the intervention, the better the outcome for the child. So we never watch and wait. In fact, in most advanced countries, it doesn't matter what the diagnosis. You don't need a diagnosis to see a speech therapist. Just your child is not talking, speech therapy starts. It doesn't matter what the cause of it is. That is approach that we want, because we don't want to waste that first 5 years of life, because the brain is still developing at that age. That's the time for us to put in all our intervention, because the brain is plastic. The brain can easily adapt. We can form new things to go. So that is why it's so important that we do early intervention. So we don't want to waste the first 5 years of life. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis, the child must have support. And that is so important. So I want you to take it up urgently this time around. It is very important. All right. If you have any additional question, just feel free to post down. Okay. So Mrs. Simon says, can I take my 7+? Okay. These are my pet peeves. I don't like to hear the word 7+, 1+. Is it 7 days plus, or 7 weeks plus, 7 months plus, or 7 years plus? How am I going to know? I'm not going to know. And the advice I'm going to give for a 7 weeks old baby or a 7 day old baby is not going to be the same for a 7 year old baby. So when you're writing the age of your baby, write it in full. Okay. For a pediatrician, we see babies as 7 seconds old. We see them to 7 years old. So we really need to have very specific information. So I'm not so sure what you mean by a 7+ baby. So I cannot answer that question, because I'm not sure what age group we're talking about. So feel free to re-ask the question, but very specific. It's 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 years. That's what we need to hear. All right. Beautiful artistry say my EBF 8 months baby isn't taking its solids. I've fried cereals, purees, pap. It won't breast milk. Good. All right. So at 8 months, breast milk is not going to be enough. Your baby should be on complementary feeds, and there are approach to going about complementary feeds. We have talk about it several times. I'm sure if you watch our past videos, you will see that. So what I'm going to encourage you to do first is to go to either our Facebook group or Global Health Media videos on YouTube or Birth and Beyond app. There are videos on complementary feeding, how to go about complementary feeding. I really need you to watch it first, because I find that most people don't. Our approach as parents sometimes is the problem. We are very quick. We just give them the solid, give them the big one, and you expect them to finish everything. And of course, baby's not going to do that. Baby has been taking breast milk for 6 months. Now you just want them to quickly change to something. It takes time for them to get used to new things. So they approach the introduction, the quantity, the texture, how you present it. These are all important information. So, and it is not a quick fix. And sorry, I don't have any drug to prescribe. You got to go through it patiently and gently. And sometimes some of us we are trying to make baby feel too much. For example, your 8 month old needs to take maybe 3 times a day of complementary food. The baby still needs to take a lot of breast milk anyway. So complementary feeding is not replacement of breastfeeding. It is about giving the addition to the breast milk, okay? And when we're giving addition, the quantity is not like the amount they will have taken as breast milk. So it is not the same amount. So it is not as big. So usually for 8 months, we want them to take like half a cup, okay, 3 times a day of food. Half a cup is just about 100 mils. So of course it has to be thick pap or porridge or purees and all that. So when you are trying to introduce new food, we always say don't introduce food one day and then maybe didn't take it. No, you have to introduce at least one food up to 13 times. I usually just say 1 week to make it easier for parents to remember. You know what? You don't just give it and say, maybe doesn't like it, then you throw that one down, you go for another one. No, you keep offering down one again and again, and you do one new food at a time before you go on to the next one and all that. And that is how you do it. Even the way you do it has to be cup and spoon, colorful spoon, and all that. Feed the baby with spoon, not bottle, and all that. So there are lots of tips we have said about complementary feeding. It's a whole program on its own. So I will encourage you to watch those our old videos. I have it also on my podcast, Ask Dr. Gbemi HCP, on most of the podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify. You can find it there. Just look for infant feeding in the first 1,000 days, because I really took my time to explain how we go about it. So be patient, be consistent, and you will get to the promised land. But just it's possible. And it has nothing to do with breastfeeding, because I know a lot of mothers want to blame me that, oh, my baby is not eating because I exclusive breastfeed. No, it has nothing to do with it. If at all, breastfeeding should make a baby eat better, because they've been tasting the same food in breast milk. And again, that's another thing. What you need to feed your baby with is not necessarily all these things they sell in the stores or cereals and all that, which is what most mothers always jump on. I think it's cereals and milk, and that is no. It is the same food you have in your kitchen. It's your rice, your yam, your potato. Of course, you now have to mix it so that there's the carbohydrate part, there's protein part, there's fat and oil. It has to have taste. Some of you don't have any salt, you don't have any sugar, and then you're surprised baby doesn't want to take them because they're like, how does it taste in your own mouth as well? So these are all small things that sometimes when parents now understand it and you try it again and you find out that the baby will now do it better. And then your expectation as well. What quantity are you expecting you to finish? You also have to address that as well. So I hope you see that's helpful. But you really have to watch our old video on complementary feeding or go through all those resources I mentioned. If you go to our Facebook group and ask, I'm sure somebody will send you the link to all those resources. All right. If somebody say, where can I find speech therapists and audiology? You have to tell me where you are, because if you don't tell me where you are, then I'm just going to be giving you places that maybe may not be suitable for you. But if you are in Lagos, just Google it. There are a lot of them in Lagos, okay? For audiology, speech therapy, there are a lot of them in Lagos. Some other states, Abuja to Port Harcourt, but I'm not sure, some other states are not so lucky, but we can. But there will always be like a center that will be the closest to even that place. So you have to be very specific about it. You don't have to tell me your address, home address. I just need which states are you. That's all I need to be able to give you an idea where to go. All right. Okay. Yeah. Sis Simon, as I say, 7 months old. Thank you, because I was going to wonder whether maybe 7 days old or 7 years old. You see why it's so important. So your 7 month old sleep longer. How can I make it my 7 months old sleep longer? So the first question I'm going to ask is, how long do you be sleeping right now? So we know we can have a because when you say sleep longer, so it's maybe already sleeping 12 hours and you want maybe to sleep 16 hours, or maybe sleeping. So I have to have that specific information, then I'll be able to answer that, okay? Because there's a duration of sleep that is expected for each age. Okay, so when babies are born, the newborn babies can sleep up to 20 hours. In other words, they practically sleep the whole day. I mean, they only wake up to eat and wake up, suck, and sleep again. So, but as they get older, the duration of sleep reduces. When they are smaller, they sleep day, night, and it doesn't matter to them. But as they get older, they tend to sleep more at night and less during the day. Unfortunately, I notice that most of the mothers, you love those sleep that they sleep so long so that you can do your own house chores and watch your movies, and so you love it. When babies are now more awake, you don't like it because they demand your attention. But that is natural progression. So usually by the time they're about that 7 month old, they tend to sleep more at night and less during the day. So they're not going to be sleeping 3 hours after food like they used to do when they were babies anymore. So we have a chart of what is the hours of sleep that a baby should have at 7 months old, at 1 month old, 1 year old, and all that. So if you don't tell us how long your baby is sleeping now, it's a little bit difficult for us to tell us whether it's already okay or not. So that is that. And if baby wake up to eat 2 times at night, there's nothing wrong with that. Baby should wake up to eat. They should wake up to suck. So what I normally encourage for a 7 month old, you should do your complementary feeding during the daytime. Then the nighttime you do your breastfeeding. It's better that way. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, the baby is feeding well, absolutely good. That's fine. So you'll be waking up 2 times a night is not bad at all. That's good. So you see that you're looking for the baby to sleep through the nights. I really need you to clarify and then tell me how many hours the baby sleeping in the whole 24-hour period first. Then I will know whether I should worry or not. If your baby is already doing like 10, 12 hours, that is good. And it's not going to, nobody's going to promise you to make it better than that because that's what is expected for that age group. All right. Um, Customer casual culture. Good evening, ma'am. Please, how do we treat consistent cough for a toddler, 1 year and 6 month old baby? So, what do you mean consistent cough? You maybe coughs. I mean, we use the word recurrent cough, persistent cough. So I'm not sure whether that's what you meant. If you mean baby is always coughing, then the question is how long has baby been coughing? I'm sorry, I'm always having to correct the question, but see, it's so important to have the right information. If I don't have the right information, I'm not going to be able to help you. So you have to tell me what you mean by consistent. Baby coughing like every day for how long? Or is baby coughing, gets better, then start cough again? Or does baby only cough at a particular time of the day, maybe only in the morning or only in the night? So we need to have that information. But if a baby is coughing for too long, the best thing is to take baby to see a doctor, to see a pediatrician, so that we can know why. Cough is not our problem. Cough itself is a natural thing, a reflex. But when baby is coughing a lot, you want to know why. So that's what we need to address. So I really just want you to know for casual culture, what do you mean by consistent cough? How long has this baby been coughing for? Is there any particular time of the day the baby coughs worse? And all that. Is it hard cough? Is it dry cough? Is it cough that is wet, that is bringing out sputum? Those are the information that we need to know, and then we can advise you for that. All right. Okay, I think I've answered Instagram people's question. I will go back to Facebook. All right, Ipo Nelly Sophia. Good evening, Doc. Good evening. My baby of 3 months vomits a lot. This usually happens after every phase. Okay, thank you both for your question. The first question I'm also going to ask you is it vomiting or is it reflux? Okay, a lot of mothers use the word vomiting when they actually meant reflux because the minute you say after feed, I suspect you are talking about reflux. So, baby can bring back part of the milk that they suck almost immediately. Number one, that is why we encourage you that when you finish feeding the baby, don't go and put them down. Most of mothers do that because when you finish feeding them, they slip off and then you just go and put them down to lie down. No, that's wrong. You should keep the baby upright after feeding them for at least 15 to 30 minutes so that the milk will settle down. The distance between the baby's stomach and the mouth is very short. It's not like our own. Your own is here to here. It's very long. So you are always sitting up most of the time. So you are sitting or standing. So your food is always down. But for babies, the distance is short, and then most of the time they are lying down. So the milk is flowing back, and normally there's what we call a sphincter, something like a gate that's supposed to close the stomach from the what we call the esophagus, so that if the food pipe is supposed to close the stomach, but in babies it's not very strong. Yeah, the gate is not very so it's always partially open. So when a baby finishes sucking, number one, the food is liquid. Number two, the distance between the stomach and the mouth is so short. Number three, the gates that should close the gates of the stomach is not very fully mature yet, so the gate is open. And then you go and put them down to lie down flat again. So the milk just goes back and comes out through the mouth or comes back through the nose. So we call it reflux. So what you normally need to do is that when you finish feeding your baby, keep them upright, carry them on your shoulder or put them in a seat and tip them. Let them be almost vertical, at least for 15 to 30 minutes. That allows the food to gravitate down. Gravity will keep it down. And then when it said digesting, then you can put them flat. Even a little bit of it can still come back, but it won't be so much. It may just be a little, and you find out that that tends to be more of like it's already digested, like curdled milk and all that. So, and that is fine. Most babies will have reflux as long as they're on liquid food, milk, and all that. Usually, by the time they're about 1 year old, when they're fully on solids, then reflux goes down. So that is reflux. Vomiting is a more active process. A baby who is vomiting does it with so much force. It's what we call projectile. If it's like it shoots out, it is not something that just drip a little bit out. Like reflux just come out and just a little bit, and so it's not. It's just be a little. It won't be the whole milk. But for vomiting, it's as if the baby is vomiting everything in their tummy. It is very forceful, and usually the children are sick when they are vomiting. So you always need to be sure is my baby vomiting or is my baby having reflux. If your baby is having reflux, a little bit of milk is coming out after feeding and all that because you put them down flat and all that. That's what we're going to tell you. Keep baby upright. Don't put them down flat immediately. And really babies that are taking a lot of hair, a lot of people bottle feed, that's another major challenge. And make sure you pass them so that some of the gas can come out, because sometimes in the process of trying to bring out the gas, they also bring out part of the milk as well. But if your baby is vomiting actively, forcefully with so much effort, and the milk is flying everywhere, almost all the milk is coming out, that is vomiting. That baby is sick. Okay, that child has to be taken to see a pediatrician. So, Ubo, you need to decide whether your baby is having reflux or vomiting, because the solution are different. For reflux, you don't need to come see us. Just do what I said. Keep baby upright. Don't put them down immediately after feeding. Pass their back. Let them, bop a little bit, and then you cannot put them down. It gets better as they get older, and by the time they are on solid diets, it's almost gone. But if the baby is vomiting, that's the baby that needs to see a pediatrician. Okay, Romoke is saying, good evening, ma'am. My baby is 4 months, 27 days. Your baby is almost 5 months. Okay. Space weight of 3.8, weighing 7.9. Is there something I can do to avoid obesity? Just leave the baby alone, okay? Just keep breastfeeding exclusively. When your baby becomes like 3-6 months, they are more active, so they burn a lot more fats. They run around, they sit, they crawl around, they do a lot more work, they talk more, so they burn their energy more. So you don't have to worry about the weight of your baby. Your baby was already very big. Your baby was 3.8 at birth. So your baby is almost doubling. He has doubled the birth weight. Yeah. So just continue exclusive breastfeeding and just let the baby be. But we need to just keep an eye on it. All right. The next question: a baby of 11 months old has only 2 milk teeth and hasn't developed any in the upper gum. Does she need any? No, she doesn't need anything. Okay. Even if the baby does not have any teeth at 11 months, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Some babies will not have their first tooth until they are 1 year, 1 month old, like 13 months old. So there's no need to worry. Your baby already has 2 teeth. So just chillax, okay? Relax and don't worry. All right. So somebody say, my breast milk splash. If breast milk splash on baby's face and it bring rashes, what can I use on it? Breast milk should not cause rashes on your baby's face. So it's not the breast milk. Breast milk does not really cause rashes. So if baby's breast milk flash on your baby's face, just wipe it. But it should not cause rashes. So if your baby is having rashes, it's something else, not likely breast milk. And what can I use on it that it will disappear and not reoccur again? Nothing. Your baby has rashes, please see a doctor to know what kind of rashes it is, to know. Don't, you are making a lot of assumptions there. You made the assumption that it is a splash of breast milk on the face, I guess it's once, it should not cause baby's rashes. So if the baby is having rashes, it is a wrong assumption, it's the breast milk. So a lot of mothers do a lot of association at times that are not necessarily correct. So this is just your own assumption that this breast milk is what is causing rashes. Your baby can have rashes even if breast milk does not splash on the baby's face. So for us, we want to know, is this baby, is something new? Have you introduced formula? What soap are you using? What cream are you using? Are you using powder? These are things baby are likely more likely to react to rather than breast milk. Baby won't react to breast milk. They will react more to all those other things that you put on them. So I think it's better you, for example, if you post this on our Facebook group, you show us the picture of the child's face, and then we can now. So you didn't even tell us the age of this baby because, for example, for newborns, there are some rashes that newborns can have, and it's perfectly normal. You don't even need to do anything about it. So avoid making assumptions of the cause of something until you've seen the professionals or ask. So, but because we can't see the picture here, it's difficult. So, but if you can post on our Facebook group, we can look at the picture and advise further. But my own gut feeling that it's not the breast milk that causes the rashes. That is just an assumption you made because of what happened. Somebody says, is there something to help a toddler's appetite? There's nothing. No. She eats less. Okay. How much does she eat? She's 1 year, one way. She prefers sucking instead of eating other food. Okay. You should tell us the weight of the baby. You should tell us what does she eat, how often does she eat, because that's help us to be more objective. So you said she eats less, so at least she's eating something. But the most important thing for us is the weight. So the weight will give us an idea of, you know, whether the baby is having enough food to maintain what is healthy weight. So a 1 year old will weigh 10 kilos. Sometimes children already eating enough, but parents want them to eat more. So pediatricians will rely on the weight of the child. No matter what you tell us, your baby's weight is fine, then that baby is eating enough. It may not be enough in your own books, but according to the weight of the baby is eating enough to maintain a good weight. And that is all the pediatrician wants. So I always like to know the age, the weight of the baby when you're asking about appetite, food, and all that. Somebody said, my baby is 7 months old. Can I feed her pap without milk? No. Okay, number one, this person, you need to go and do complementary feeding guide, because this question worries me because it shows that you have no clue about complementary feeding. Complementary feeding is not even pap, and it's not even just pap without milk. Complementary feeding means we give your baby food in addition to breast milk. Okay, but there are many food you can give your baby. It is not just pap. Okay, and if you want to give pap, it's not as if you cannot give pap. You can't just give only pap, because pap is just carbohydrates. You have to add other food. Where is the source of protein? Okay, you can say that, okay, I will add crayfish to the pap, or I will add break egg into the pap. That will be the protein. Where is the fat? Okay, I will put 1 spoon of palm oil. Then of course you have to make it very thick. Where is the fruits and the vegetables? You can decide that, okay, I will blend some banana into it, so something like that, or you can give it separately. And of course, you make it a thick porridge. You add a little bit of sugar to make it taste, or you add formula to sweeten it, or dates. There are many ways you can sweeten the pap. So that is now what we call fortified pap. That is a complete food. So, and that is just one. It does not mean in the afternoon again, the baby should still take that same pap. In the afternoon, we decide that, okay, let's do potato with butter, and let's put a little bit of vegetables and some, carrots or whatever, depending, you can do many things together. So I'm happy that you're in our Facebook group, because I want you to post your question again on the Facebook group so that somebody can give you the link to all our feeding videos so that you can watch them. And you need to really understand complementary feeding first before you even start, so that you know the principles and then you know how to go about it. All right. Somebody said, can a toddler of 1 year take B complex? Why? So the question is, why do you want to give the baby B complex? and what dosage. We're not even going to say give before you ask for dosage, so nobody's going to give you any dosage. We don't just give drugs anyhow. And for us, we prefer your baby eat food, real food, rather than drugs is better for the child. All right. Somebody is saying, baby, I don't know whether it's a person that say your baby is 1 year, 1 month. A 9.8 kg is a good weight for a 1 year old. Okay. An average 1 year old weighs 10 kilos. So 9.8 is perfect for that baby. And we're not going to worry. We're not worried about chubby. We're not worried about fat. You may not be fat in your family. So people may not, the children don't have to look fat. They just need to have a healthy weight. We pediatricians want your baby to have a healthy weight, not to be chubby. Okay, and there's no competition about fat. Some of the babies that you are thinking are chubby and fat, some of them are obese, and it's a disease on its own. If a child is too fat, okay, if a child is too chubby and they are weighing too much for their age, it's also not good. So we want the baby to have a healthy weight, what is expected for their age. That is what is important, not whether they are looking fat or chubby. I know mothers, you love those fat, heavy babies. We don't really worry about that. We worry more about them being healthy. All right. Okay, so let me go back to Instagram. Um, Let me be sure where I stopped. Okay, I think I've seen it now. Uh, Yeah, casual culture say my baby by consistent cough. I mean that the cough has persisted for more than a week. Okay, thank you. We call that persistent cough, not really consistent cough. Okay, don't worry. Usually more serious early in the morning. Tried treating her with antibiotics, but she won't keep it down. Please don't use antibiotics if it's not prescribed by a doctor. Antibiotic abuse is so rife in Nigeria. Mothers just use antibiotics like pure water. It is wrong, and it is not good for. It's not just because we are afraid of you taking over our job. No, that's not the issue. You are causing what we call antibiotic resistance, because when the children now need the antibiotics, it won't work for them. So please don't use antibiotics that has not been prescribed by a doctor. Most cough don't need antibiotics. If your child is not having fever, it's not having difficulty with breathing, they don't need antibiotics, because most likely their cough is due to cold, viruses, and not bacteria. If it is virus, it doesn't need antibiotics. So that is why we don't want you using antibiotics that has not been prescribed. It is dangerous. Okay. So if your baby is coughing for more than 1 week, it's still not a problem. Usually we start worrying after 2 weeks. So most cough will last up to 10 to 14 days. Most viral coughs will last 10 to 14 days, and it will go by itself. All we want you to do is to just keep the baby hydrated. Let them drink a lot of water. How old is your baby again? I'm trying to remember now. Okay, 1 year, yeah. So 1 year and 6 months, yes. So your baby can drink a lot of water. Warm fluid is better because it helps them to soften the mucus and all that. That is all you need to do. If after 2 weeks your baby is still coughing, or your baby is having fever with the cough, or your baby is having fast breathing or difficulty with breathing with the cough, that is when you need to see us, and then that is when we will do something about it. And the most important for us to do is to know why the baby is coughing, because if it is a viral kind of cough, we know that within 2 weeks they will go by itself, and we don't want you to use cough syrup as well. Okay, no cough syrup. Just let them drink a lot of water, keep them hydrated, keep warm. Virus will go by itself. You don't need to do anything. It will go by itself. So, but I've told you when to see the doctors. Cough lasting more than 2 weeks. Baby is having fever. Baby is having fast breathing, difficulty with breathing. Yes, you should go to the hospital. Udo, my baby is 10 months old. Can it take Complan milk? Why? Why Complan? Or for children from 1 year, your baby does not need to take Complan at all. Okay, mothers fall a lot for all this advertisement, and oh, you think I need to give a special milk, and if I give a special milk, baby will gain weight. They are all advertising gimmicks. Those mix do nothing. Okay, what your 10-month-old baby needs is your breast milk, okay? Your breast milk is more than enough source of milk for a 10-month-old. If you are not always breastfeeding, or you were not exclusive breastfeeding before, or you are not available, you can give any age appropriate formula. Age appropriate formula is the formula for a 6 to 1 year old baby, not not compliant, okay? That's what you should give your baby. And milk is not all that your baby needs. Your baby needs milk, but milk is not the solution to your baby gaining weight or not gaining weight. Your baby needs to eat food, complementary food, okay? I don't know whether you were listening when I was talking to the person that asked about the 8 month who is not eating. So, and the kind of food to give and all that. That's what you need to focus on. Don't be looking for any special milk. You think if you give this special milk, then your baby will be fat and gain weight. No, it's not. That's not the idea. The idea is to get your baby to start eating food, because sometimes mothers want to look for shortcuts, a particular product, a particular milk, a particular cereal. And then when your baby is 3 years old, your baby is still not yet eating food, then you will come back again and now, Dr. Baby, my baby is not yet eating food. This is the time to get them right from the beginning. So don't be looking for any special formula. Your breast milk is more than enough. What you need to do is to make sure baby is eating food. I will encourage you to watch all our videos or resources on complementary feeding. Know how to make the food, how to put it together, quantity, quality, frequency. All those things are addressed in those videos. It's so important that you get it right. Let's get it right. And your baby needs to eat only from your kitchen. You don't need to buy anything from the stores. Trust me. You don't need to, even milk, you don't need to buy it from the store, because if you are breastfeeding, your breast milk is even more than enough for your complementary food. So it is only those who are not breastfeeding or exclusive and not producing enough milk and all that. Those are the ones that even need to buy the formula. Okay. But if you are breastfeeding well, your baby is still sucking breast, you don't need to buy any milk from any shops. You just need to give your baby food, and you can use your breast milk as a milk source. So there's no need for you to buy any special milk or anything. They're all advertising gimmicks. Okay. All right. Jodiac is saying, how do we treat colic in babies? Okay. The honest truth is that you don't really need to treat colic. Colic is, again, it's one of those things that will go by itself no matter what you do. All right. So colic, for those who may not know, is babies crying for no reason. Okay, they just cry and cry, and we are not really sure why they are crying. It's something that they can, we used to say the rules of three. They cry for 3 hours a day, for 3 days a week, for 3 weeks continuously. Mothers don't count how many hours or how many days, but mother just knows that this baby is crying, and sometimes they twist, and sometimes parents feel like when they pass gas, they feel better. When they pass through, they feel better. All you need to do with colic is just to comfort the baby, and different things work for different babies. Some people find that if they hold the baby and cuddle them, they get better. Some people white noise. Some children, you drive them around. That is when my mother would say you have a biamo, you dance around without any music to the baby for the baby. You just find something to do that will make your baby feel comfort. So babies have this as if they want to pass gas and they struggle with that. For those one things like Infacol may help, but sometimes it doesn't even help. But that's about the only medication that was even allowed for colic, Infacol. Otherwise, please don't give any of some of these other products that many people give. I don't want to mention brand names so that I won't be doing advertisements for them anyway. But you don't really need to give any of those things. But the good news is colic will come and go, okay? It will stop. Usually by 3 months, max 4 months, it's all gone. So it's something, one of those hanging there, it will come to pass. So there's really no reason for you to worry. Just find your way of making the baby comfortable. It's fine. It's one of those things that will come to pass, and the baby will stop having it. So we don't really recommend anything much for colic. It's one of those it shall come to pass question. All right. Oluwai Mayo Mikun, I love that name. When will anterior fontanelle stop beating? The anterior fontanelle doesn't have to beat, so it doesn't even have to beat at all. You don't even have to see, you don't have to feel it. But trust me, it's there. So the anterior fontanelle is always there. So some people can see it, especially if your baby is not hairy. You can see it, you can sometimes you feel it as if it's pulsating. It's actually the blood vessels around that area itself that is pulsating. It doesn't have to beat, it doesn't have to pulsate, it doesn't have to do any of those things. And for those who have very thick hair babies, they don't even see it, they don't even feel anything, but it is there. So we talk about closing. So the anterior fontanelle should close between 18 to 24 months. And the posterior fontanelle, most of you don't even know that one is there, but there's one at the back as well. We call it posterior fontanelle, should close between 0 to 6 months. So that's a closing time. So closing for anterior fontanelle, 18 to 24 months. Closing for posterior fontanelle, 0 to 6 months. Okay, don't panic about beating and all that. And it doesn't mean anything is wrong with your baby. The fontanelle is just a normal part of the body. And I know a lot of mothers, the grandmothers always, oh, baby has what they call it, oka and all that. I think I've written a whole article on oka and the anterior fontanelle. It's good for people to read about it. Please do not apply anything on the anterior fontanelle. Do not even apply all your oil. Okay, all this oil every second, cotton wool or thread or what else do people apply? Those ones are even not bad. At least the oil and the thread, they don't cause any harm. But some cultures actually apply all this thick, caustic, very hot substance on that area because they are trying to treat the anterior fontanelle. And I've actually seen those substances literally melts away the scalp covering over the anterior fontanelle, and we can just look down and see the baby's brain. I mean, it was horrible. The baby had very serious infection of the brain. So just leave the anterior fontanelle alone. It's not disturbing you. It's not doing any harm to the baby. The anterior fontanelle is just a space created there in the scalp, in the skull, strictly speaking, that allows for the head to grow bigger. Because when babies are born, like I said, for those who listen during the breastfeeding week, the brain is one organ that is not fully formed at birth. So the brain is still growing. So the first 5 years of life is the brain uh, growth. 95% of brain growth and development occurs in that first 5 years of life. So there must be space allowed for the brain to expand. That's why your head gets bigger. So it is because that spaces are there. We also have other ones because sutures in between the bones. So those spaces are deliberately left there by God so that as the brain grows, the head can grow with it. If it's just a fused brain box, there'll be no space for the brain to grow. So that is why those spaces are there. So the spaces don't do any harm. They are just there on their own and they do cause no issue. But if a baby is sick, it can reflect in the way the anterior fontanelle looks. So for example, if a baby is dehydrated, the fontanelle can be sunken, it will be depressed inside. So we know, oh, this baby may be dehydrated. If a baby is having meningitis or infection and there's a lot of water production in the brain, what we call raised intracranial pressure, then the fontanelle will bulge out. It will be tense. It will be hard. It should normally when you touch it, it's soft and flat. But when there's something else going on in the brain, it becomes swollen. It's hard to touch. So that is that tells us there's something else going on in the brain and all that. But the fontanelle itself is not doing anything. It's not causing any problem. It's just is whatever changes it goes through is a reflection of something else going on in the rest of the body. So you don't need to do anything to it. And code is not entering through it. Nothing is entering through it. Just leave it alone, okay? You don't need to apply anything, okay? For those who don't know, I know the grandmas always are very particular about it, but just leave it alone. You don't need to do anything to it. And you don't need to feel it beats, and you don't need to feel it's not beating. Just leave it, just let it be and just ignore it. I think that's what I would just say. All right, our time is up and I'm going to be going home now. I'm home already, but we're going to be closing the program. All right, just to answer the few questions remaining on Facebook. What is the reason for low PCV? Low PCV or low packed cell volume means the red blood cells are low, and there are many, many reasons for that. So that is the job of your doctor to tell you the reason why it is low in your home baby. For it can be something like what we call nutrition, like iron deficiency, like folic acid deficiency, vitamin B deficiency. Some deficiency can cause the PCB to be low. Okay, some illnesses, like if a child is a sickle cell disease anemia, the PCB will be low. There are many, many conditions that will cause PCB to be low. So the job of a doctor is to do the blood test, and there are some other information we'll get from other part of the blood test that may suggest where the problem is coming from. Actually, if we do what we call a blood film as well, but that is the job of your doctor to investigate the cause of the low PCV and to advise you. The most common one is the iron deficiency, especially when people don't feed their babies well. If you're only giving them pap and milk, they're not going to get iron. Iron is in meat, is in some of those vegetables and all that. So you're not going to get it from pap alone. So most children are having iron deficiency because they are not getting, and that is why in some parts of the country we give what we call micronutrient powder. We have to kind of give them the iron through those powder to supplement it. But the best way is to actually feed the children. So if they're eating protein, fish, meat, chicken, all those things, they will get iron from them. So that is it. But that's not the only reason why PCV can be low. So you really need to see a doctor to guide you about that. And what medicine can I give a baby under 6 months? You pushes his stomach up in discomfort. Number one, I cannot even recommend any medicine, and I will not encourage you to just take medicine from anybody just telling you go and buy this medicine. No, you need to take this baby to hospital. I'm not even sure I understand what you mean by it pushes his stomach up. I'm not in discomfort. I can understand that there's something wrong with the tummy, maybe abdominal, whatever. But in a less than 6 month old baby, please take the baby to the hospital. Let them see the baby and let them advise you what is wrong. And that is what will determine the treatment. Is stooling associated with teething? No. Teething doesn't make a child sick, does not cause stooling, does not cause vomiting, does not cause cough, does not cause rashes. Teething is a natural, normal development. Baby bring out their teeth the same way they sit, the same way they walk, the same way they do any other things, and that they don't have to be sick to do that. So if a child is sick, please do not assume teething. Don't just cross teething out of your list of differential diagnosis. Don't even make that assumption at all. Take the baby to the hospital and let the baby be obstetricated. Safia, I think I've answered your question. Don't just going for medicine. See a doctor first, a good doctor. When you tell them something wrong, my baby, they will not just say, go and buy this medicine. Just that's how you know a good doctor. They will ask you questions. They will even want to examine your baby, and then before they will even tell you what to do. And they should be able to tell you what is wrong first before they will tell you this is why I want you to use this medicine. So doctors don't just give you medicine like that. It's not the way we do the work. All right. Roma can say baby have deep breaths while sleeping. He sometimes snores or sniff and sneezes. How old is this baby? I can't remember. I always put the age of your baby in every post. I know you've asked a question before about your baby. Your baby is the 4 months, 27 days. Okay. Which I say is almost 5 months. Deep breath. So all this kind of question, we really, really need to see the baby. We really need to see these deep breaths. We need to see all the snoring, sneezing, and all that. I hope you are not putting eucalyptus oil in your baby's oil, because that is the most common reason Nigerian babies sneeze. All mothers are putting eucalyptus oil in baby's oil. It is not in Nigerian constitution. Please stop it. We don't want you doing that. So that's the most important thing. Snoring, we need to check. Especially if your baby is snoring continuously, we need to be sure there's no obstruction in the baby's airway and all that. So, but it's okay for baby to breathe and all that, as long as they're not breathing fast. I'm not sure what you mean by deep breath, so I'm very careful what I tell you. But for us, we worry about difficulty with breathing. I see babies breathing with breathing is something you should not notice. It is effortless, it is noiseless, it's something you should not even notice. So if you are really noticing a child's breathing, then we worry about it, and you may want to if you take a video, you can show us, or you can also see a pediatrician so that they can examine the baby. But breathing, we don't want your baby have any difficulty with breathing. I think that's for us. That's what we don't want. Okay, yes, I've gotten the age of your baby. Thank you. It's almost 5 months. Yeah. All right. So if you worry about anything breathing, I'd rather you see a doctor. We need to be sure, because breathing is always one of those ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. If a child is having any problem with any of those three, it is always a concern. Okay, I think I managed to answer all the questions and I did it in less I only did 10 minutes extra today. That's good. I'm getting better. All right, thank you so much everyone for joining me today. Thank you for asking your questions from the pediatricians, and I hope you find the answers useful. If you still have more questions, feel free to head over to our Facebook groups for the mothers, for the children. Ask the Pediatricians Facebook group. You can't miss it on Facebook. And you can see our logo. You can see also, you will know when you're in the right place. And ask your questions there. We answer your questions Mondays to Saturdays. So Sunday is our break day. So don't be... Many people always say, why can't we ask questions on Sunday? You can't ask questions on Sundays because the pediatricians have to rest on Sundays. All our admin and moderators, they rest on Sundays. So ask your question from today to Saturday, and we will answer them. Beyond even what we do in terms of answering your question, we also do webinars, like teachings on all the important topics. Like the whole of last week, we were talking about breastfeeding. So we also do other teachings in our Facebook groups. And of course, we also do outreaches to communities in Nigeria and Ghana as well. So thank you so much. We welcome all your support, and you're also welcome to advertise your products on our platforms, because we use the money to support our programs and our outreaches. So thank you so much, everyone. And I will see you same time next week on another fresh episode of ATP Live Monday. Remember that you can watch all the past episodes, whether it's on Facebook, on Instagram, our IGTV, or on our YouTube channel, ATP TV. You can't miss it. So if you come late, or if you want to listen to all our past episodes, they are available free online for you to watch. And I'm sure listening to them, you will learn so much. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye.